what do you expect for people that you paid as a taxpayer? Some you may have voted for, some you may have supported in other ways, some you may have just platformed because you agree with them on one issue, but not everything else, or you disagree with them. Mm-hmm. But just in the role they're in, what are you expecting for them? Like, what is the thing they need to do that is markedly different than what they're doing right now?
You mean the Democrats?
Well, unless you want to talk about Republicans, what they need to do?
No, I mean, because honestly, people have asked me this before. And I'm like, if you say Democrat to me, if you say midterms to me, like, because to me, the system is part of the problem. The infrastructure of this system is part of the problem. I am not interested in repairing, restoring, working with the Democratic Party. I am only interested in harm reduction for the people. And if that means obliterate, blow up this whole system to rebuild something new, I'd be okay with that. No diss anybody, but I'm okay if the Democratic Party falls completely. Like, because then that means then we have to build something new. And as you've often reminded us, Angela, white supremacy is bipartisan. And so I think that, I think the message that they took from these last elections were, we were messing around with these N-words and the LGBTQ community and the trans community and, all the other people of color. And we need to go back and try to get these white conservatives again. Like, they just have such a hard-on for that group. They didn't walk away and think, oh, we should have drilled down. We should have danced harder with the folks who brung us. We should have given the up-and-coming voter, the aspirational voter, something to latch onto. We should have inspired them. We should have led with our convictions. They didn't do that. They walked the middle of the road and became political roadkill. So I am not so interested in uplifting them. I am completely open to ideas. Angela's leading the charge for us to try to figure out ways for us to work together to make sure that all people are not subject to the harm that's going to come out of this administration. And I got to tell y'all, if you watch Game of Thrones, you'll understand it's going to be the long night. Like, this is not going to be a bad 4 years and then we go back. I think this is going to be a long night of generational devastation for us. So I don't know that I look at the Dems for that. But I want you to mean you biased. I want to know your opinion on this, too.
I think that...
If you were still ED of the Progressive Black Caucus, I know you would tell them, no, don't go.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I would say I would do a couple things. One is I would tell them to platform their guests. So, at the State of the Union, for those watching at home or listening at home or wherever you listen, for those who don't know this, at the State of the Union, members of Congress normally bring a guest with them. And their guest is normally central to something that's happening right now. So I'm sure a lot of the members are going to be bringing federal workers who were laid off or who took the payout. A kid or
Democratic members,
yes, a kid who I don't even know what the other side be doing. They'll be like, I brought somebody that arrested the last illegal definitely a January 6th partner. And then also I brought this man from ICE who, sorry about his accent, but that's what came to me. I brought this man from ICE who put that last illegal who broke all them laws in Guantanamo Bay, and he gonna celebrate him. But the Democrats will likely bring someone who's been impacted by these crazy cuts. And so I would tell them, don't just bring them and put them in a press release. Go somewhere else and put them in position for the world to hear their stories.
Yeah.
Because until people hear how these things impact humanity, one story at a time, people just don't care. Yeah. They're aloof. They're overburdened by all the crazy news. It's just like, whatever, it's too much. I'm like Tip, I'm drinking out of fire. I'm just overwhelmed. So we have to figure out a way to cut through the overwhelm. And I think the only way you do that is with empathy. You have to tap into people's empathy. And I got to hold on to hope, because if I don't, I'll die, that people still have that. And I think the last thing I would say is definitely don't go. And wherever you go, I think you either wear red because it's a code red, or you wear black because it is the funeral of democracy.
It's solemn.
You know?
I don't think people going to watch.
I don't know that people are going to watch, but I think
there will be folks who will absorb it because of the entertainment value. You talk about
that in clips on social media.
But Donald Trump is a performer, and a lot of folks follow him to go to the show. They want to see the show. What I hope that Democrats would do is not cede all of the time. Yes, Donald Trump takes up a lot of space, but if people don't hear what the alternative view and vision is, they'll drink from a mirage, because somebody's offering something, But if you're not offering anything, people won't quote you hook, line, sinker on your policy. But when you're explaining what it is that you're intending to do, they're going to get a feeling. And that feeling's either going to be this guy's looking out for me and he sees me, or this dude's on another planet. He's not for us. He's not like us. He's not whatever that is. Voters make those decisions in a moment's time. Right. But all the time with elected officials, that with their quote unquote leaders. And so we have to believe what we're saying.
Yeah.
And if we believe it, then we got to act like we believe it.
I wonder if some of this is psychological.
All of
like
this.
I mean like the inability to respond. Like, oh my God, like for me, I'm just like my humanity's like, oh my God, this can't be happening. Like every time I'm like, this really can't be happening. Like we might lose every platform ability to communicate with people we need to mobilize. Like we really could be in a really, really bad situation. Like we are in a bad situation, but it can get much, much worse. Yeah. So I think some of what they're doing it's like a subconscious, if I treat this as normal, maybe it'll go back to normal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's a brain
let's just get through this budget reconciliation process. We're gonna have votes
but
as long as we can vote.
They're responding like the average American is allowed to respond.
Yeah.
But when you sit at the helm and you're looked to for leadership, when your moment of leadership shows, you better be there to meet it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think people have gotten the wrong idea around what public service is and what you're actually there to do.
Yeah.
That they're putting their tea leaf, their finger up to the wind, see which way it's going, and then that informs how it is you choose to show up.
I think that's true.
You have the pedestrian instinct where the attacks are coming from so many places, I'm just going to go turtle.
Yeah.
And when I come out of it, it will be different. That is a survival mechanism. We have that as humans, as Homo sapiens. But leaders have to exercise something different. It doesn't mean that you won't be reacted by what happens and you won't have a very human reaction, but your rebound time better be a hell of a lot quicker. Because we don't have days, times, hours to waste to figure out a message or to get over your hurt feeling because the activists are demanding you do more. They're afraid.
It's the people too. And the other thing is on this, I want people at home who are watching to know Andrew is not just a former elected official. He's also a former organizer and a damn good one. He started his solo pods this week. And his solo pod was on how to organize. He's going to do a whole boot camp and training.
I love it.
Because we don't know how y'all going to be able to organize at home, but he going to make sure that you have all the tools for old school and new school.
And the ones that are in your lane.
Yeah. Yes.
You're uncomfortable this way. We want to envelop the multitude of ways in which you can get them, but there will be no excuses.
He's on Mondays.
Well, speaking of, because you're talking about organizing and a lot of people are concerned about like, what do you do at the grassroots? We got a great question that we didn't get to last week and we promised we'd get to that this week. So thank you for your question. Let's roll the question on local elections because I thought that was a really good one.
Hey, Native Land Pod. My name is Andrea. I am in Fort Worth, Texas, originally from Cleveland, Ohio. Shout out to the land, but living in Fort Worth for about 9 years now. And my question is this. The city of Fort Worth is the fastest growing city, the 4th largest city in Texas, and the 12th largest city in America. Our local elections are coming up. This means city council, mayor, and the school board. And my question is, what should our asks, what should our demands be of our locally elected officials to impact, change, and reduce the harm that's going on in Washington, D.C.? Is there anything that we can ask of our locally elected officials, so our city council, our mayor, school board?
I love that question. And I think this is a great panel to answer that question. Andrew, I want to come to you on this because I think you're best position to answer this, but I just want to give the audience a little context about why this matters. So voter turnout in local elections is actually really small. And not just, I hate when people say off election years, because there are never any off election years. There are always elections happening. So voter turnout in the United States is much lower anywhere than any other, than most other countries. So we have around 60% voter participation in presidential elections, 40% in midterm elections. And turnout soars up to 90% in countries with mandatory voting, and reaches around 70% in overall developed countries. So we are lagging behind, and we're suffering the consequences of that. Now, after decades of political polarization, gerrymandering, voter suppression, et cetera, most of the people elected now did not face a competitive election. So I looked at an analysis that the New York Times did, and this is just on Congress. More than 9,000 congressional and state legislative primaries elections were held last year. On average, just 57,000 people voted for politicians in the U.S. House primaries who went on to win the general election. So that means a small fraction of the more than 700,000 Americans, each of those winners now represents that tiny bucket. So we're going through minority rule.
A district with 250,000.
Isn't that crazy?
Precisely. A third of the current members of the House, this Congress that we're dealing with right now, ran unopposed in their primary. So they didn't even have someone to run against them. The lawmakers who do face primaries, as you all have witnessed, bore witness to, they are partisan hacks. They are right-wing extremists. They are MAGA cultists. And so those people actually find a path, i.e. Marjorie Taylor Greene, i.e. Lauren Boebert. They find a path to have a direct impact on what our life looks like. Only 15 to 27% of eligible voters across the country cast a ballot for their local elections in 2018. And that number has continued to go down. Voter turnout in 2022 for elections was the second highest for a non-presidential election year, because I think people were, it was coming off a year of COVID. People were inside. But my point is, this is still talking about, right. And this is talking about congressional elections. When you get to city council in Fort Worth, there are over 35 people running for the city council for a 10-city seat. The numbers of people who cast ballots for that are even fewer. So my point is, that is where you have a unique opportunity to make your needs and your wants heard.
That's right.
Because you're dealing with a smaller pool of people, and you can be the loudest voice in the room to make sure those candidates hear you. I worked on a campaign in Baltimore, and there's an extremely high amount of returning citizens who live in the state of Maryland. And so a lot of the formerly incarcerated individuals who prefer to be referred to as returning citizens, they're so powerful in number that if you're running for the city of Baltimore, you have to pass through them.
Sure.
They hold a candidates forum, and it's very organized, and they are active. And so I really appreciate that and honor that. But to her question, because I don't want to go without answering.
You've answered it, and I thought
Really
beautifully around the value of
what to ask. And that was where I kind of fall back.
Ask for what you feel helps to create the beloved community for you and the people who you care about and love. And if that means schools being funded at equitable levels, for your kids and the kids who live on the other side of the tracks and the folks who are on the opposite side of that, then that becomes your demand, and that powers the movement. If it is environmental justice that you mad that the minority neighborhoods don't have grocery stores with healthy food options and the same, then that becomes the thing that you go and you do. But I will tell you, it isn't just your local, garden variety issues. It's also, we have the 10th Amendment to the Constitution that carves out the rights of states, and within states, the jurisdictions and municipalities therein appertaining, who also have their own set of rights. And so if you and your community want to say, we're going to be a sanctuary place, or we're a city that's going to do reparations and we value diversity and inclusion in this city because we all do better from it, those are all values that can be stated, advocated, done, and become local law.
And states might be our last holdout. You didn't give up on the court. States might be it. Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.